Hey, guys, this is Will. We have Mike Mayock here, so you guys can please mute your phones if you don't have a question, and then unmute, and we can get going, all right? Here you go, Mike.
Hi, guys. No statement or anything. I'm just going to open it up for questions. Fire away.
Hey, Mike, it's Josh. Bringing back on the roster and putting Tanner on IR. Is that one of the moves today?
Okay, two people were talking. What was it? Was that about Tanner?
Tanner on IR and Sam Young. Have you guys signed him to bring him back?
Sam Young will be back. Yes.
Okay. And Tanner to IR, is that?
Tanner will go to IR, potential designated for return.
Hey, Mike, in addition to bringing Sam back, we saw that you made a deal to trade David Sharp to Washington a couple weeks ago. How do you feel about the depth that you have in that offensive tackle room overall?
Okay, I think that was a bad connection. I think the question was about offensive tackle depth. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was just how do you feel about the offensive tackle depth that you have now that you're planning to bring back Sam Young and having traded out David Sharp?
Yeah. At offensive tackle between Colton and Trent, obviously we feel really good about our starters. Sam Young came in and competed his tail off. Really happy with what he's done. He's played both sides in his NFL career. He's smart. He picked our system up so quickly. So to have a guy with that kind of versatility is really helpful. And then, of course, we've got Brandon Parker, who started several games in the league. And we still feel like, you're talking about a third-round pick out of a small school. We think there's still a lot of growth there for Brandon Parker.
Mike, you have some young guys in key positions, and I know you've talked about them that they have to step up. In your experience with rookies, no matter the position, what are you going to look for early, like in terms of the transition when the lights go on with them?
Yeah, I think you just hit on it. It's how do they compete? Is it too big for them? What happens when the lights hit? And I think what you want to see is just business as usual. And, you don't want rookies to go out and think they have to win the game by themselves. Just go out and do what God gave you with the gifts that you have, obviously honed by what the coaches have taught you, and just go out and be you. And really, more than anything, and it's what John and I stress, and we have since day one, just go out and compete. Compete your tails off. That's what we ask from our rookies.
Mike, what was the thought process, Mike, on the trade of Lynn Bowden Jr.?
Well, let me make a couple of points. Number one, it was a football decision only. And character off the field, the kid did absolutely nothing wrong. We did all our homework on the kid off the field. He worked his tail off. He came to work every day. So this was completely a football decision, had nothing to do with anything else. Quite frankly, I think the position change is a difficult one in any year, but it's exaggerated in a COVID year with no off season. So you're taking a kid that was a slot receiver in 18, a quarterback in 19, and asking him to play running back in 20. And really the only other thing I'm going to say about it is, that it was my call. He was not able to play today at the level expected. And because of that, we felt like we had to make a move. And again, it's 100% on me.
Mike, when you talk about that, and you said in the past, and I'm not sure what happened to the combine, but in terms of COVID, I know in the past you've like to gone to dinner with guys and really get into them and under the hood and see what they're about. Not just with Lynn, but with everyone. How hard was the evaluation this year, considering you were probably looking at them through a screen and not doing what you usually like to do?
Yeah, I think first of all, if you just look at the pure numbers, in the last 5 years, the average waiver claims are about 42, 43 a year. Okay. This year we had 17, which tells you that A, we didn't get to see each other's players in preseason games. B, we didn't get to see an extensive look at this year's class of kids, both drafted and undrafted. So the net result was that I think teams trusted, A, their own players, and B, veterans, guys that they have tape on. So I think the COVID effect with no off-season, no preseason games, the cumulative effect of that was brutal for every rookie across the league. And my heart goes out to all of those guys.
Hey, Mike, this is Vic. What was missing with Damarius Randall? Why'd you guys let him go?
You know, Vic, I think it was more about what Eric Harris did than anything else. And I think we sometimes overlook how valuable a player Eric Harris is. And we thought Damarius Randall would come in and compete with Eric for that spot, ultimately across from John Abram. And at the end of the day, Damarius was not able to compete every day. He wasn't out here every day through no fault of his own. But the more you look at Eric Harris, the more you look at he's a glue guy, not only for the entire team, but specifically at the back end. He gets people lined up. He's the best communicator we have back there, and he's one of our top special teams players. So when you look at Eric Harris, I think a lot of times he gets underrated. He doesn't get the respect he deserves. And I think every year he's had a challenge with people coming in trying to take his job. And he's just consistent, smart, tough, and he will be a very difficult guy to supplant.
Mike, this is Jerry McDonald. What did Kendall Vickers do to catch your eye?
Kendall had a great camp, and he's a guy from the CFL. He came in at about 290 pounds, and when he came out of college a couple of years ago, I mean, he ran in the 4.7s. And we know that Rod Marinelli loves defensive linemen that can run with quick feet, loves feet. And Vickers was a guy with great feet. So we bring him in here, and not only did he compete at a high level for every snap, but he did it both inside and outside. So I think he gives us a little bit inside-outside capabilities. And because of that, it gave him a leg up on a roster spot.
Mike, compared to last year, what are you most pleased by in terms of the roster and how you guys have been able to improve from the 2019 roster? And Lynn Bowden Jr., real quick, I know he was intended to have a special teams role as well. Who do you envision playing that punt returner spot now that the competition at that position doesn't have as much depth?
First of all, as far as the overall roster view, I think one of our goals in the offseason, and we talked about it with you guys, was we had to get faster and more dynamic on both sides of the ball. And we hope we've done that. And obviously with no preseason games or any kind of inter-squad scrimmages with other teams, we're not going to know till next Sunday. But we feel like we've gotten faster and a little bit more dynamic. With regards to the punt return spot, you know, we've got 3 or 4 guys right now that are capable of doing it and have done it in the past. You know, you can look at Hunter Renfro, you can look at Jalen Richard, Nelson Aguilar. We've got a group of guys that are still competing back there.
Mike, can you talk on, I think he's with your practice squad, you'll re-sign him, Javen White. He got a lot of high praise from your players this year, the UNLV kid.
Yeah, local kid, had a really good preseason. He's he's another one of those players that is going through a position change. You know, he played a lot of positions at UNLV, but predominantly was kind of a safety nickel type player. We're asking him to play outside linebacker and special teams. And so you're talking about a 209, 210 pound safety trying to play linebacker, and he had a really good camp. And I think he recognizes that he's got to get a little bit stronger, bigger. And I think when that happens, he's got a chance to be a pretty good football player.
Mike, your young cornerbacks, Trayvon Mullen and Damon Arnett, were impressive during training camp. What did you see of Damon, especially early on in training camp, and what he was able to do to win that job?
Yeah, Damon was exactly what we thought he would be off tape, which was, first of all, tough and competitive. And again, we use that word competitive all the time. We thought he was one of the toughest and most competitive corners in this draft. And he was that, and he will be that. He's quick, he's fast, he finds the ball in the air, and as he learns how to be a pro and consistently detail every step along the way, he has a chance to be special. Got a long way to go, but he's got a chance.
Mike, what's the
as you went through this process, what was your most difficult decisions, or what group might have been the most difficult for you?
I think we were always kind of looking at the defensive backfield and the corners and the nickels just to see. We have so many young guys there that we think are pretty talented, competitive kids. And I think that's been a really difficult position to evaluate without preseason games. And to be honest with you, we're going to continue evaluating everywhere, but I can't wait to see how our young guys respond against a really talented Carolina skill position group.
The expanded practice squad and the addition and the ability to put veterans on that practice squad, is that going to have more of an impact this year in the COVID environment than in years past?
Yeah, I think it was a big deal, and I think it was done primarily for roster flexibility in a COVID year. So we have more players on practice squad. We have the ability to call players up and down without exposing them to waivers, and we've got an ability to bring an unlimited number of players back from injured reserve. All of that was generated because of COVID. As far as specifically toward the veterans, you're allowed up to 6 veterans on your practice squad, which is really helpful. And we're going to try and take advantage of that at some key positions, and have guys that have been in NFL games. And again, you could be activating practice squad players up to 90 minutes before a game. So I think there's always a fear of the unknown, and that's where we are right now. Nobody in the league really understands the ramifications of how COVID will play out. We're all kind of hedging our bets with our practice squad, and we're going to go from there and try to figure it out.
Along those lines, Mike, are your practice squads going to travel with you throughout the season?
We're going to start that way for sure, yes.
Anything more from Mike, guys? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Good luck,
Mike.
everybody.